where you go if you don't catch any fish and you're like depressed. Like, let's go to the rudder room.
Or you go there to celebrate.
Or you go to celebrate your fishing birthday. Exactly. I've been on a couple of boats of this size, and they don't nearly have as much sleeping room as you do.
Yeah,
Like those spots right there, right where your knees are. I mean, 2 people could sleep there.
There's nothing justifiable on this thing other than us being on it. It's just, it's one of those boats that when you pull in someplace, it's like everybody notices it because it's unique and it's almost timeless because the lines on it are just beautiful.
So you mentioned this was a boat that was started off like they were racing, but how did it gain its momentum in like the sport fishing industry?
So I guess, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but they started manufacturing the boats in Miami, and then some of the charter captains got a hold of them because they figured if they could make the crossing over to the Bahamas that fast, let's do a couple of different versions of it, like the Flybridge version, the Express version. One that had only a lower helm, one that only had an upper helm, no front windshield, no head, like a game boat that would be just out for the day. So the popularity just blew up because the way the boat rides and how it cut through the chop on the East Coast. There isn't a single harbor in the world of any like sport fishing, notoriety that doesn't have one of these operating either in a charter fleet or with like an individual that might own a home there. They're just super versatile and iconic.
And this is the most popular back. The 31 hole was the most popular back then.
Absolutely. I don't. There's got to be. I could be wrong on this, but I think there's over 1,000 of them that were built. So you find them in all types of different.
But yours is the fastest
posture.
now.
Mine is the fastest, at least with the diesels. But more importantly, the shaft angle on this boat is very unique because they did prop tunnels in it. So when a boat doesn't have a good shaft angle, it tends to ride a little bow high because it's all its thrust is going out this way. This is a little flatter running. So this boat tends to lift up instead of dig in and push water. These are known to be a little bit wet. This one is substantially less wet because of that shaft angle, that running angle. It almost like lifts up and it buffers itself up top. So, you'll see.
Cool. So
It's
today
fun.
we'll go out there. You show us some trips of maneuvering it.
Yep.
How to position, how to anchor. Your thought process of anchoring, whether or not you're anchoring as smugglers with the family, or you're trying to get on some sea bass. Different thought process. Walk us through all that.
Yeah, exactly. Anchoring is one of the most important skills I think that should be learned by a new boater. Because basically what it does, and the way I explain it the best is if you had the flexibility of throwing out a grappling hook or a parachute on an airplane, a lot more people would feel comfortable about flying. If the engine failed or whatever, on a boat, all you have to do is put the anchor down, figure out what's going on. You're not drifting into the shore, you're holding your position, and it gives you the time to go in and look, what might be the issue. So it's a huge safety tool, in my opinion. And there's a lot of people that just don't ever put it down.
What do you think it is? Just they don't realize how important it is, or is it something that they're a little intimidated to do? They don't want to get hung up on the rocks. Is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, I think it's just their exposure to good education, or in introduction to boating. I think that if you really think about it from the perspective of being able to stop your position, it keeps you off the rocks. It keeps you from going onto the beach. It also holds your position if you're having a medical emergency. So typically the Coast Guard asks you when you're out, putting out a rescue mayday call, they want to know how many persons are on board, what your location is, what your nature of distress is, and then they pretty much ask you to put on your life jacket and do you have an anchor. Whether or not you're a mile from the beach or a couple hundred yards from the beach, you want to put that anchor down, because that anchor is going to stop you from moving from that approximate position you gave people that are coming to rescue you. So you had a heart issue, medical issue, and you fainted or whatever, if that boat continues to move, it's going to be that much harder for them to find it. So from a perspective of safety, it's crucial to know. So most boats are set up with rope and chain. It's also known as your chain and your rode. Typically you want the length of your boat or a little bit greater in chain minimally, because the chain is what actually, once it lays on the seabed, as you pull back, it's digging the chain in, which allows the anchor flukes to properly dig in as well. And that's what gives you the true holding integrity of an anchor. The majority of larger power boats have all chain, and it's basically there because of the weight of the boat, and in big storm conditions it's nice to have all that weight up there. There's a typical rule of thumb that when you anchor, you want to be in like a minimal of 3-to-1 or 4-to-1, which means if you're in 10 feet of water, you should have minimal 30 or 40 feet of line out, and that enables what's called scope, the angle that comes off the boat, to actually dig into the sand like we talked about with that little bit of chain. If you don't have proper scope, you're basically, this is the front of the boat, and the line's just, if you're out 10 feet or 12 feet of water, you're basically bouncing that anchor the whole way until it finds the bottom and then digs in. So in storm conditions, you want to typically be somewhere in that 7-to-1. So I usually anchor overnight in like 40 feet of water, 50 feet of water. So minimally I'll have out like 250, 300, just to be super safe. The other thing is that if you ever go into an area where there's boats that are anchored, you have to follow whatever protocol they've put in the water. So if they're on one anchor, everyone needs to be on one anchor. If they're on 2 anchors, everybody should be on 2 anchors. The reason being is when the current changes, if everybody's swinging properly with current or wind, then nobody's going to bang into each other. If you've got one guy with 2 anchors down, he's not moving either direction, and you get these guys on a single hook, they're just going to bang right into the other guys. That creates a bummer.
Maneuvering into anchor, are you looking at swell, direction, current, wind? Like what are the main things that you're really looking at besides the bottom finger?
So if I was going into an area that I didn't know, the first thing I would look at is maybe the graph, the chart plotter before I get in there, if there's any boiler rocks I need to worry about, and then just kind of figure out where the prevailing wind usually comes from, so I have an idea of what's going to transpire throughout the day. Swell direction would be another one. It just allows you to make a better choice, so you don't have to re-pick it up and reset it again. There's times where I've been in places that I weren't familiar with. I did my best guess, but the conditions change throughout the day, ultimately making me have to change my position. If I wanted to stay in the sun longer because the island covered you might want to be a little bit farther off. If you want to dive, you want to be closer to the seawall. You just position yourself that way. Go into an area and kind of feel out where I might want to sit. Certain anchorages have a little bit narrower spots that I like to dig into, and those are usually the 2 hook harbors, the 2 anchor harbors. We'll throw our anchor out, the front anchor out in the deeper water, and we'll back the boat into our location where we want to deploy the stern anchor, and then we let both out, for a fair amount of scope, and then we start lifting up on the bow anchor and tie off the stern, and it basically sets the boat tight. Boat in the middle, you're gonna have these 2 scopes out, so now you're digging both of those anchors in. That's typically how I like to do it. utilizing your fish finder, your depth finder, is crucial. Like, how do you know how much anchor to put out unless you know the depth? So we have a really nice fish finder that we use. This one's indicating it's 21 feet. So if I do my math and I'm here for the day, I'm doing the 4-to-1 ratio. I'm at, 80 feet of chain, 100 feet of, total line or chain out at that time. This boat's got rope and chain, but has a lot of chain in the beginning. That's just personal choice. Because when I put it down, I don't want to move anywhere. So
most people, is there mark indicators in the chain and the rope, or do they just, is there a way to, what's the cheap way to do it for someone who's a novice?
So the normal way of doing it is guys will paint the chain in different color codes. I like to use the wire ties, where I'll take let's say multicolored wire ties at 100 feet. I'll do all red. On 150 feet or 125 feet, I'll do green, and then I'll have like a little legend that tells me, or whoever's up on the bow, hey, let me know when you get to the green, because then I know I'm where I pretty much want to be. And then we tighten up on the anchor and let the anchor dig in. And if there's no condition like today, and I want to set that anchor, I may have to put the boat in reverse slightly to get it to dig in. So the wire ties allow it to go through the wildcat, and that's the piece on the anchor that it's actually pulling the chain, or it digs into the rope and allows it to be pulled on. It's like it's almost like a V, and the line sets in it. And that's why you want to have good line. You got to check your line, check your shackles, any connections that are in between, always. Traditional Danforth anchor, which is like a fluke style anchor that has fixed flukes and it's on a hinging top, and that's good for like sand and rock. It's a very multi-use anchor. All my boats have claw anchors on them. They don't swivel. They're like a plow anchor that digs into the sand, and it's a little bit tougher to get out of the rocks if you get it stuck in the rocks. But again, if you go in and you look at your fish finder and you really figure out what the bottom looks like from a standpoint of rock, kelp, or sand, sand's obviously going to be your best bet to get it in and out easiest without getting it tangled. So you learn a lot from your fish finder and anchoring. A couple of things that I want to show you on this specific anchor system is that I always put a safety rope. This is a safety cable. This allows the anchor not to deploy by accident while you're running. And I just simply tie it off to the hawse pipe or put it on the cleat. And now the anchor is laying in the roller. You've got your chain, your swivel base. This is your wildcat that I was talking about. And this is what we call the tensioner. It basically keeps this chain down. It's spring loaded, and it will find the groove and pull that up. When it transitions into the rope, then there's a V inside this unit that grabs that like a little bit more tension on it. Be really careful up here. This can cause a lot of damage to someone, and you got to be very careful what you're doing up here. You got to keep people clear of it. And there's another version of a windlass. This is more of a wildcat windlass. The other version that we use is what's called a Lone Star drum windlass, and it's basically a big drum up here that houses all of your rope and your chain, and it's basically like on a barrel. Those, in my opinion, are my favorite, but they're not aesthetically as nice. So a boat like this might have something a little bit more low profile. So I'm going to pull the safety off of this. I'm going to go up to the tower, up to the bridge, and there's going to be an up and down switch, and we're going to deploy the anchor. Okay, now that I have the chain clear and there's going to be pressure to allow the anchor to free fall, I'm going to go up to the bridge and I'm going to operate the up and down switch there, and we're going to back down as we're deploying the anchor so that we're not piling the chain on top of one another. We're going to go real slow, because today we're going to have to utilize reverse, because there's just no current really today, and there's no wind that's going to give us a little bit of free flow. So we're going to have to go create it. Tighten up on it a little bit. A little more. A little more. Good. Okay. Now when I tell you, I'm going to have you go in the down position, and then I'm also going to instruct you to go backwards a little bit. So right now, I'm going to communicate with the skipper of the boat that the anchor is ready to deploy. We've chosen a path to go in reverse that's clear. It's going to give us a nice position that we feel based upon the conditions that's going to allow this chain to go to the bottom, this anchor to go to the bottom, and we're going to pan it out by going in reverse a little bit, getting us some good angle. All right, Gary, you want to put it in reverse and hit the down button. Okay, go in reverse and neutral. Line is going out continuously. There's the rope, and we have plenty of line out. I think we just went to about the 90 mark or the 70 mark. I just saw it go through. Now we're in neutral. The boat is glide scoping back, and you can see the angle of this rope. It's showing us that it is slowly creeping along the bottom, and when it gets tight, it's going to start angling up, and the bow of the boat's going to turn that direction. If we don't see it because of the lack of condition, we're going to put the anchor windlass in gear, and we're going to retrieve some of that line for a second. You can do that for a moment, Gary.
Retrieve some?
Yep. Just come on in with it. Keep going. You'll see it catch here. And good. Now you'll watch this angle as he's using the inward button of the windlass. You're going to see this line start to populate back into the chain locker, and you're going to watch the rise of the scope. If you look overboard here, take maybe a shot of that, you'll see that the angle's going to change as he increases. See how it's pretty vertical now at a 45-degree angle. Tap it in reverse for a second. You're going to watch that line will increase. It'll start to go up, and the angle will increase. Keep going, Gary. Angle's changing, angle's changing. That anchor is now going to tighten up here in a second, and it is good. That's right. That's what you want to see. You'll see that the boat's going to come to a stop. You're using your peripheral vision, and it is gripping right now. It's solid. It's not going anywhere. You're here for the night.
And then is the reverse true with pulling, kind of you driving up on it, or what's it?
No, the weight of the boat. Once the anchor gets bit, you want to keep that angle so it doesn't go underneath, obviously, to keep it out of your running gear. But you want to creep up on it. Just, incrementally bring it up. If it needs help, if you got a lot of wind, bump the boat forward. Just make sure somebody's watching that angle so you don't get it caught in the running gear. So go ahead and hit that on button. Up button, sorry. And when I go like this, that means stop, okay? Coming up to the 90 mark. You can hear the windlass loading up a little bit, and it's very important. You're going to watch this transition here to the chain and rope. Watch what happens. Should go through it smoothly. Up, nope. There we go. It caught, now it's deploying. Hit the stop button for a second. That is the proper way to watch a chain and splice go through a wildcat. It didn't get hung up. It was smooth, but you every once in a while have to redo that because it wears out a little bit. You can feel the boat pulling forward. Now we're on the way to the chain, and bring her on up. I'm watching that the angle of the chain doesn't go underneath the boat, that it still stays forward of us, and it's pretty much straight up and down today. Here she comes. Incrementally, just tap on it, please. Keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. There you go. And that's good. I'm gonna take some of that excess garbage that's on the front there off, so we don't have any jewelry hanging off the bow. So another thing I forgot to mention was it's a really good idea to run your main engine when you're retrieving the anchor. What it's doing is it's replenishing the amount of voltage and amp draw that you're pulling from those batteries via a alternator on the boat. So you can dead boat it, what we call, just by pulling it up, but you'll watch your voltmeter literally start to suffer a bit. This encourages the bank to stay healthy just by replenishing it. So it's a good habit. That's pretty dirty. We got some mud, boys. There you go. Keep going. Snug as a bug. Keep going. All right, we're good. Now, again, safety is everything. Make sure that whoever's sitting near that switch is not gonna by accidentally lean into it with your finger anywhere. Just think of this as a razor. And now I know we're secure, she can't deploy, so we're good to go. So that's basic anchoring.